Hey everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm in a new location today, so hopefully my lighting won't be so crazy like it usually is. I actually promised to do this one yesterday, but I was not feeling that well, so I did not. Today we are going to discuss fasting for fat loss. So this is a question that we get all the time. And I was actually in the middle of doing a blog post about this for the website, but what I'm going to do is just kind of go over the information that I cover in that blog post for you guys if you're interested, and that way you can also have this as maybe a little checklist for yourself if you're trying to figure out if fasting is for you. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Kiki. I am a personal trainer. I'm a strength coach. I am a trainer's trainer. One of my passions is actually helping other trainers to understand how to work with the over-dieted population. So most of the things that I discuss are about metabolism and muscle and rebuilding your metabolism after years of over-dieting. I'm also an author and the co-founder of Eat More to Weigh Less. So most of the information that I am talking about here, you will also be able to find on the website at em2wl.com. So, like I said, right now we're just kind of going to go over a checklist of sorts. These are the bullets that I've written down for the blog post that I am doing if you're trying to figure out if fasting will work for you. Now, the reason why "you" is in all capital letters on this is because it is very individual. So you have to know going into it that just like with other types of diets and things like that, it's okay to try, but you have to go into it with a level of awareness, being willing to stop if it is not working for you. And that's what these signs are that we are going to discuss. So it's a lot to cover. If you have to hop off and hop back on, I understand. You can watch the replay later and just kind of hold the screen to fast forward through this part right now that I'm talking about. Okay, so bottom line, understand that one style of eating is not for everyone. So that includes intermittent fasting. So it really doesn't matter if everyone and their mama is like touting that this is the next best thing and this is the only way. You have to understand your own personal reactions to it so that you can know if it's for you. Now, does intermittent fasting work for lots of people? Sure. And because there are so many articles and magazines and everything, you know, it's like the new thing right now. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the benefits of intermittent fasting because those are everywhere if you're looking. So I am going to play devil's advocate here and kind of give you some ways to know if it is not for you. Metabolically, there's not really a big difference between eating 3 meals versus 6. If the makeup of the calories and macronutrients that you have at the end of the day is the same, and if you have a healthy metabolism. So right off the bat, if you are someone who is, you're a beginner or you're extremely overweight, or many women do not tend to fare as well with intermittent fasting. So that's bottom line. If you just needed to like get the gist of this and jump off, that's it. And so I'm going to give you the signs of understanding if that is happening for you. So like I said, it's okay to try, but look for these signs. Okay, so one of the things that you note right away is, are you having dizzy spells? Are you fatigued? Are you like starving, like uncontrollable all day hunger starving? Some of these things are looked at as just regular parts of intermittent fasting or even diets for that point. Like most of these tips that I'm giving you, they will apply to any diet. So if you're fasting and you find that you're like feeling dizzy throughout parts of the day, you're moody, like I said, with any diet, when you're super low on calories, you have to pay attention to those things, because what we talked about a couple of days ago is the fact that your hunger, your energy, your cravings, whether you're binging and things like that, those are all cues to something hormonal that's happening. So it's not wise to just ignore them. Dieting, our old diet mentality told us to just kind of stifle those hunger cues and to ignore when we're really hungry and to just fight through those feelings. or push harder even though you're tired. Those are all cues that the style of eating isn't working for you hormonally. Something is happening hormonally, and ignoring these signs is what tends to lead to a lot of adrenal fatigue, hypothyroid issues. And the reason why I know this is because even though there's tons of, like I say, books and magazines and articles of all these people who are having success with intermittent fasting, I get a lot of the people who don't, and that is why. So, and they tend to think that it's just them. So it's something that's not talked about. So a lot of times I call myself the last resort trainer, and that's why, because I tend to get the people who think something is wrong with them. And if these things are happening to you, there's not something wrong with you. So if you are dizzy, if you are moody or irritable, if you have uncontrollable hunger, cravings all day long, like not just like I'm kind of hungry, but then I drank some water and it went away type thing, but you're like really feeling like you're starving all day. If you are feeling weak, especially in your workouts. So I talked about feeling fatigued, but if you're in your workouts and you notice that you're really, really tired, not just like kind of like I don't really feel like doing this, but as you get going, the endorphins kick in and you start feeling better. We're talking about you are feeling like you're getting weaker in your workouts. You are weights that you were able to do before, suddenly you're not able to do anymore. So if your endurance or strength is decreasing in your workouts, then you need to check the style of eating that you're having. Like I said, that applies to any diet, but specifically if you're fasting and you're noticing that in your workouts, then that's something to troubleshoot, because there are parts of like the original versions of the intermittent fasting that a lot of people tend to miss, and that's that intermittent fasters are supposed to work out less. So if you're the type of person that's working out a lot and you're noticing that you have no energy, or you're like a group instructor and you're trying to fast, you're going to notice that you probably need more food and that you may do better when you have some food in your system already. So for those of you who are just joining, we're going through the checklist of knowing whether or not intermittent fasting is working for you. We're not necessarily talking about the benefits of intermittent fasting in the scope. There's a lot of that out there. We're talking about being able to go into this style of eating with the intention and the awareness of knowing if it's working for you. So we talked about making sure you don't feel dizzy or moody, irritable, hungry all day long, like uncontrollable hunger, you can't really contain it, getting weaker in your workouts. If your strength or endurance is decreasing, that is a sign that maybe you need to switch up the way that you're eating or the time of day that you're working out. If you are losing sleep, if you can't, what is intermittent fasting? It is, well, I'm actually kind of happy that you haven't heard of it, but intermittent fasting it's kind of a new way, but it's not new. It's pretty much, it's fasting for weight loss. There are different ways to do it. Sometimes where you have an eating window that's maybe 8 hours or 12 hours or something like that. Different styles do it different ways. There's like lean gains, or there's like alternate day fasting, where every other day, I see my puppy's trying to get in on the action here, where you're fasting every other day or something like that. So that's what intermittent fasting is. It's periods of going without food, long periods of time, and then having an eating window where you eat all of your food. And it's being really highly touted for weight loss right now, and just as fasting kind of always has. So it's something that if you haven't heard about it already, you will hear about it in the future. So these are some of the things that if you tend to go into that and you want to try it, then you can go through this checklist. Like I said, again, it's going to end up on the website too, but we're just going through it today. So that is a good question. Okay, so if you are losing sleep, if you can't sleep at night, you may be eating either too much right before bed, or if there's something hormonally going on because of the fact that you're fasting, it's just another sign. So make sure that you're checking. If you're checking off a lot of things on this list, they aren't coincidental. It's that you aren't eating enough per day. So maybe skipping breakfast or skipping breakfast and lunch is not for you, even if someone else is getting great results doing it. Another one is missed periods. And for a lot of women, this seems like a good thing, and this is something that happens on most low-calorie diets or extreme exercising. A lot of people don't understand, and they think that this is not a big deal, but women, our that's hormonally something is going wrong. The female reproduction system is more deeply intertwined with your fat loss than you think. So doing something that is causing you to have missed periods, like under eating, or if fasting is causing you to miss your periods, that's showing you that your hormones have been disrupted, and not just the ones that determine whether or not you're pregnant. Sometimes we may look at it like, well, as long as, I'm not trying to get pregnant anyway, so it doesn't matter, or a period's an inconvenience, so who cares if I miss it? But you should care. If you are, that's a sign that you're probably either over dieting or over exercising or mixing the two, and your body is under extreme stress. So missed periods is a sign that something's going on hormonally. Now, on the flip side of that, there are people with intermittent fasting that they start seeing menopausal-like symptoms and as early as 20s. So you need to keep an eye out for that, because going through an early onset menopause at like 20-something is a huge sign that something is being disrupted with your hormones. And again, that kind of goes hand in hand with the missed periods, and they think it's not a big deal. Well, I'm not trying to get pregnant anyway, so who really cares if my period isn't regular? Those are hormonal things that's letting you know that something's going wrong. And if you're experiencing menopausal-like symptoms, then you have to understand that estrogen is actually conducive to fat loss, whereas having like lowered amounts of estrogen is going to make it a more comfortable environment for fat. That's the reason why when we do go through menopause, it starts getting a little bit harder to lose the fat, and we start holding on to fat in places that we didn't really have it before, just because the lower amounts of estrogen is actually making it easier for us to lose weight. To gain weight, to gain fat. So if you're experiencing missed periods or menopausal-like symptoms, one or the other or both, that is a sign that that fasting is not for you. That, or at least at this moment in time, it's not for you. So it's really important for you to know that, because it could just mean it's the time period of your life where you're under so much stress that that's the reason why the fasting can't work for you at that time. So another thing is a softer appearance in your muscles. So if you are maybe losing tons of weight, but it seems like maybe your muscles are getting softer, then that's a sign that maybe you're either losing too fast or you're losing muscle, which could be because you're under eating as far as protein. So if you're not eating enough protein, you're not eating enough to hold on to your muscle, your stomach doesn't let you fast, which is great. That's a sign. So that was one of the things that we talked about earlier. If you're hungry, if you're feeling like you're starving all day long, then that's a sign that you need to eat. So for those of you, if you just joined, so far we've talked about you will need to rethink your fasting for fat loss journey or intermittent fasting if you are dizzy, if you are moody or irritable, if you are fatigued, if you are like starving, like uncontrollable hunger all day, every day, then you are probably eating too little, or you need to rethink the fasting. If you are weak, getting weaker in your workouts, like your strength is going down, you're lifting lower and lower amounts each time, your endurance is decreasing. If you feel lightheaded, if you're feeling dizzy, nauseated, lightheaded, those are the things that you need to be paying attention to. If you are losing sleep at night, you notice that your nights are getting like shorter and shorter and shorter, you're not getting enough sleep, you're probably not recovering from your workouts, things like that. If you are missing periods, again, seems like it's not a big deal, huge deal. It's a big deal when you're dieting to see if your periods are regular. If they're not, then something is going wrong hormonally. If you're having menopausal-like symptoms or early onset menopause, you should not be fasting. So these are signs that hormonally something's going down. So pay attention. The next one was softer appearance in your muscles. If your muscles start going flat, or they seem like they're disappearing, or you're losing more muscles than you are fat. So maybe you're either getting smaller, but you look different, or you are not getting smaller at all, but you're losing some muscle. So if you're losing muscle, then you should not be fasting, because that is a clear indicator that something is going wrong. You're either not eating enough protein or not eating enough calories. So the next one, like we discussed when we were talking about menopause, like if you're having menopausal-like symptoms or if you're missing your period, then maybe your body is under more stress than you think. monitoring your stress levels when you are fasting. If you decide to try fasting, you need to monitor your stress levels because it's going to be very important to see what is happening during your workouts. So when you're stressed, that's your heart rate. So it's typically going to show with your heart rate recovery. Now, this is where a lot of people start running into adrenal fatigue issues because maybe they're fasting and they're like working out really, really intensely, or they're doing all these like HIIT workouts and stuff like that. And if you have a heart rate monitor, this is where you would use it for. Not necessarily to make sure that you're like burning all the calories, but to see what is happening with your heart rate recovery. How long is it taking your heart to recover from these bouts? So normal heart rate recovery is going to drop about 20 beats per 60 seconds. Now, if throughout your workout, you're noticing that your heart rate is going up and it's not coming back down fast enough, and each time it's coming down like to a higher amount, so it's taking longer and longer for it to recover and go down to what it should be, you need to stop the workout. You are not properly fueled for that workout. Your body is overstressed at that point. You are overtaxing your nervous system. So if you're noticing that your heart rate recovery is getting lower every time, it's taking longer and longer for your heart rate to recover, that is a sign that your nervous system is out of whack. You are overtaxing it. You are overstressed, and that workout is adding stress. So understanding that means that when you are in that position, if you say you go into your workout fasted and you notice that, stop the workout, then maybe experiment and try that same workout again the next day or so with food in your system. If you notice a difference, then right there you have troubleshooted properly. If you notice a difference that, okay, when I work out fasted, my heart rate recovery was really, really low and it was just taking too long for my heart to recover. And then you go into that same workout, you try it again without being fasted, and your heart rate recovery is normal, then you have your answer. Fasting is not for you, or you need to not fast on your training days. Because like I said, again, that is one of the missing components from a lot of the teachings, or at least maybe the misinterpretations of intermittent fasting. If you're fasting, you should not be working out a lot. So people that are extreme athletes or endurance athletes, or you're working out every day, or you're working out 2 times a day, or you're teaching classes, you should probably not be fasting. Not probably, you shouldn't be fasting. So I'm trying to be as like open here as possible without saying it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that people are grasping parts of it out of context and then they're applying it to their lives, but they're really just using it as another form of extreme dieting and exercise. So it's really, really important to understand if you are going through or experiencing any of these signs that fasting is not for you. So again, if you just joined, what we talked about so far is if you're going into fasting, be aware of the signs that it is not working for you. Despite the hype, despite pictures, despite Instagram, what anybody else is saying, if it is not working for you, do not be afraid to stop. So it's okay to try it, but if you notice these things, then cut it, at least for this time in your life, especially if maybe it's just adding more stress to your life. So this means that even if you're losing weight, you need to stop if you're experiencing these signs. So despite the high expectations or the scale, if you are dizzy, if you are moody or irritable, lightheaded, fatigued, if you are feeling starved and hungry all the time, uncontrollable hunger, like I will eat the kitchen floor right now if it came up. Like if that's the way you are feeling all the time, then you need to take note of that. Your hunger, your energy, your cravings are signs of what your hormones are doing. They are signs of whether your hormones are in or out of whack. Yes, eat the kitchen floor. What else? Okay, if you're weak, if you're getting weaker in your workouts, your endurance is getting worse. Your strength is decreasing. If you're experiencing those things, especially in a workout, you go into a workout and instead of maybe kind of like, I don't really know if I want to do this, but I'm going to try it anyways. And then the endorphin kicks in and you feel great versus I don't really feel like doing this. And as the workout progresses, you feel worse. You feel drained. You're pushing yourself through. Stop. If that's what you're experiencing, then that's a sign. If you're losing sleep, you can't sleep at night, you are waking up too early, or you can't get to sleep, that's another sign. If you're missing your period or having menopausal-like symptoms, that is a sign that the hormones that actually pertain to fat loss are being disrupted. So don't just look at it like it's just a period, it's no big deal. If your muscles are getting softer in appearance, you notice that what used to be firm is now getting squishy. That's a sign that you're probably losing muscle instead of fat. Maybe you're losing too much weight. You're going like it's just too fast. So your body's getting rid of muscle because muscle is metabolically expensive to maintain, meaning you need food and lots of it. So maybe if you're under eating and you're not getting enough protein, your body looks to see what's the most expensive thing, what's taking up all of our food, and it gets rid of it. So that's a sign, if you are losing muscle, that you should not be fasting. If your heart rate recovery especially is getting lower, and you're noticing that you're having these heart rate spikes during your workout and they are not coming down fast enough, that is a sign that you need to stop that workout immediately. Try it again a different day with food in your system to see if that was the problem. If not, then you need to be seeing a doctor anyways, because that is a sign that your body is overstressed, your nervous system is being taxed. Okay, so moving on. If you don't have sex drive, assuming you had one before, if your sex drive goes away when you're fasting, then there's an issue there. Something hormonally is going down. So you need to be aware of those things. Not just like, and I mean, if you think about it, they all kind of go hand in hand. If you're like tired and dizzy and nauseated, you're not going to have a sex drive. But if you had one and then you start fasting and suddenly you don't anymore, then maybe that's the problem. Maybe you need to eat. What is considered fasted? How many hours since last month? It differs. So if you're eating 3 to 4 meals a day, kind of spaced out, you're probably not fasting. But it just depends on if you're going like 10 to 12 hours usually is what a lot of the fasting is about. Like usually there's like maybe an 8-hour window, 10-hour window, but it's so broad because there's so many. And that's the problem, is that a lot of people don't study like the exercise protocols that go with the different styles of eating. And typically a person that is fasted shouldn't be working out. And a lot of people are fasting, or they're having these 8-hour eating windows and they're like working out like crazy. So fasted is going to be different from everybody. The most popular is like lean gains and stuff like that, or eat, stop, eat, alternate day fasting, things like that. So it's essentially like if you don't eat, you know, like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, you stop eating and then you don't eat again until like 12 or 1 the next day, then that's considered a fast for a lot of people too. So, and like I said, it's not a bad thing for a lot of people. It's just that it gets so much hype that most people don't understand when it's not working for them, or when they're seeing these signs, they don't understand that they're associated with fasting, or they think that there's something wrong with them. So it's really important to understand your body before and during the fast to know if these things are going wrong. And also to know if you have any of these signs on any diet, then it's probably a sign, because all of these typically will happen on a super low calorie diet as well. So the next one was if you are binging. So like I said, all of these are going to end up on the site. This was a checklist that I was creating for the site. So if you're already like frequenting eatmoretorwaitless.com, you'll see these again. Or if not, make sure you're following on like Facebook or Twitter so you get the notification when this blog posts. This checklist will be on there for just things for you to go through if you decide to try fasting, to know if it's for you. So if you're binging during your eating window, that's another one. So a lot of times that's why people like it, because you can fit so much food in there, because you can eat bigger meals. And if those bigger meals are, you know, if they're basically macro friendly, like they don't have to be perfect, but if it is an all out like nonstop, I'm putting all the food into my mouth, and it doesn't really matter if it's like healthy, beneficial, nutrient dense, or anything. If it's a full on binge whenever your eating window's happening with no, like you're not paying any attention to whether or not you're eating enough protein, fiber, things like that, then there's a sign hormonally that something's wrong. So remember, again, your binging is always a sign that something's going wrong with your hormones, your leptin levels, your insulin levels, something may be out of whack. So try spacing out your meals a little bit more closely together throughout the day and see if that makes a difference and helps stop the binging. If it does, then don't fast. Then that's not for you. Now, a big one for me is it causing you to eat too little food? If fasting is just another form of extreme dieting for you, then that's not a good solution. So if you are already eating, say, 1,200 calories and you hit a plateau and you decide, what can I do to get through this? I know, I'll fast, because it allows you to even eat less calories. So that's not the time to fast. If you're eating 1,200 calories and you hit a plateau, you need to do a metabolism reset. If you don't know what that is, you can click the link that's in my bio and I'll send you a bunch of free stuff that explains all of that to you. Because if you are the type of person that have been in a low calorie diet forever and you're trying to find a plateau buster, intermittent fasting is not it. It's not the time for that, unless you are getting ready to get on stage and you're trying to find some quick finish line tactic for a temporary 5-minute look on a competition stage. Other than that, if intermittent fasting is causing you to eat too few calories or too little protein or too little fiber, things like that, then something is going on. This isn't something that you should be using as a replacement for extreme diet. So a lot of people don't understand that that's the reason why they're seeing these results, is because you just lowered your calories. You could have done that and still had your meals spaced out if you had a lot of calories to choose from in the beginning. But if it's causing you to eat 1,000 calories less, sure, you're going to lose weight for a little while, and then you will plateau, and then you will destroy your metabolism, and then you will spend the next 2 or 3 years trying to figure out what went wrong, when all you had to do was pay attention to the fact that, okay, eating that way is causing me to eat way less. It's causing me to eat not nearly enough protein. And if you fix those problems ahead of time, you would probably find the key to why you're plateauing anyways. So make sure that this is not just another form of extreme dieting for you, because low energy diets can do all of those things that I mentioned above. They're going to reduce your fertility rate and things like that. And being extra lean is a reproductive disadvantage. So that's the reason why all the things that we talked about before starts happening. It's why you start going through the menopausal-like symptoms. It's why your period stops coming. And typically, people that are used to being extremely lean or go through being extremely lean for short periods of time, like fitness competitors and things like that, often that's one of the things that they look for as a sign that they're lean enough, is their period stops. So they know, as they're closing in on that, that fitness magazine look or that competition stage look, they know that they are almost there when their period stops. It's like the sign, okay, yeah, I'm on my way. And it's something that extreme athletes also experience. When they are at their peak season, their body shuts down the reproductive system, because it's not an advantage to you. You start losing things that your body actually needs to reproduce, so it starts shutting down. And like I said, it's not just about the period, because the things that are happening during the period is showing that your hormones are working properly. When you start shutting down, going through menopausal-like symptoms, you're lowering estrogen, and estrogen actually helps you to lose fat. So a lowered estrogen state is actually a more comfortable place for fat. So people think that it's an advantage, and it's not. So getting so lean that you lose your period should not be your goal, unless you get paid for it, and then whatever floats your boat. Okay, so another sign is that the fat starts shifting to your belly. That's a sign of stress. So whenever you're noticing that, you seem like you were having good results, and then suddenly you start, your belly is expanding and you don't understand why. That is typically a sign of an overstressed body. Your nervous system is shutting down. So things like that is a sign. So if you start losing a lot of weight, maybe you plateau, maybe you start noticing that a lot of that fat seems to be in the midsection, that's a sign, because again, that's also a sign of what happens during menopause. You get, Dr. Pam Peake called it menopot, and that's the middle age spread that we go through. Those are all signs that, especially if you're young, which I know not a lot of young people actually follow me because they want to go out and try all that stuff first. So I know there's not a lot of young people listening to this, but if you're in your 20s and you're experiencing this, it's not normal. It's hard enough for us that are out of that to fight the things that are coming with aging. But when you're forcing that onto your body early and you're noticing things like that, your belly is starting to expand even though you thought you were losing weight, then that's a sign. That is actually a negative sign of fasting. So your body's reacting in a negative way if you notice that in your belly. Now again, and that also shows that probably your metabolism is not up to par for fasting. So it seems kind of weird because you'll be like, well, there's all these people that fast and they have six packs. Again, intermittent fasting is supposed to be a temporary finish line type tactic. And in someone with a healthy metabolism, you can actually see fat loss from that stress. But if you're somebody who does not have a healthy metabolism, or you started doing something like intermittent fasting way too early in the game and it's disrupted your hormones, and so you do not have a healthy metabolism, you're going to see adverse reactions. You're going to see the opposite happening for you than what's happening for everybody else. And you're going to think like, maybe I'm not doing it right or something like that. It's not you. It's just that fasting is not for you, especially in this period of time. Maybe you're under different stress than other people. You may notice that most of those people, maybe they are not married and you are. Maybe they don't have kids and you do. Maybe you have a high pressure job and fitness is their job. So you have to think about all those things, because there's things that are stressors to you that maybe aren't even in the picture for somebody else. Yes, Keish, that was exactly like, if you don't know your body beforehand, then it's hard for you to realize when these things are happening. And you're just expecting like, I'm going to fast, I'm going to look like that person with the six pack and the ripped physique, not realizing that they had a 4-pack and they were already pretty tight before they even started that thing. So the fasting just kind of like pushed them over the edge. It wasn't like the thing. So you have to understand, like, and you have to put in the work ahead of time to make sure that if you plan on starting something like that, that you go into it with a fully healed and healthy metabolism, and that you stop when it's not working for you and when your body starts showing these negative signs, because it's something that for all intents and purposes should be temporary. So it shouldn't be something that you're starting your journey with, especially if your body is not healthy. So the last things that I had on here were, in addition to all the other stuff, is if your hair falls out, your skin is drying out, you're breaking out, those are things to take note of. If you are, especially like brittle nails, things like that, again, that's also a sign of your diet too. If you are eating too little calories, too little protein, those things tend to happen too. The same thing with slow digestion, or if you're always cold. Again, those are signs of low calorie dieting. A lot of people, that's one of the first things that they notice after they come to this way of eating and they go through metabolism resets and stuff like that. They're like, I remember I used to always be cold and I just thought that that was just life. And then like you start eating enough and you're eating enough protein and stuff and you're like, dude, I'm like always hot. Like that is a good sign. Like your body is working. It's burning off those calories. Like that is a sign of good digestion. It's called the thermic effect of food. So your body is literally like thermal. It's burning things off. So a lot of people don't realize that they shut that down when they eat too little. So all of those signs go with the wrong side. Those are negative signs of intermittent fasting. So I'll go through all those again, and then I'll close out and quickly tell you what type of person should fast. And then I'll let you go. I know this was so much. That's why I put off doing the scope for so long, because it's a lot of information. Like I said, this checklist will be available on the site. I'll try to have it up within a week. Like I said, I was working on it now and stopped to come and talk to you guys about it. So if you're dizzy, if you are moody or irritable, if you're fatigued, if you have uncontrollable hunger all the time, you're starving all day long, if you are weak, especially in your workouts, you're getting weaker, you are losing endurance. My son just came home and my dogs are going crazy. So if you're tired all the time, you're losing sleep, you are missing periods or having menopausal-like symptoms, if you are having a softer appearance to your muscles, if you notice that they were nice and firm and hard and they start getting squishy, there's a problem. If you are having a stressed, like your heart rate response is not coming down during your workouts, you're getting the spikes, but you can't seem to get that rest, especially like you should probably get, like it should be able to drop about 20 beats within 60 seconds. That's a normal heart rate recovery. If that's not happening, stop the workout, try it again a different day with food, see if that makes a difference. If so, you have your answer. If you're experiencing low sex drive, binging when you are in your eating window, if you are eating too little and fasting is just giving you an excuse to undereat or not eat enough protein, that's a big deal. You need to make sure that you're still taking care of that. If your fat starts shifting to your belly, that's a sign that fasting is not working for you, or you need to set it aside for a while. It's a sign that your body's overstressed. If your hair, skin, things like that are having problems, you're breaking out, your hair's falling out, your skin's breaking out, your nails are brittle, things like that, those are signs that something's going wrong. If your digestion is slow, you're feeling cold all the time, those are all signs. Like I said, that full checklist, it's a lot of stuff. It will be on the site. The reason why it's so important for you to see that, because we just see so many examples of it being perfect and these things working out perfectly for different people, and this person tried it and it's this great lifestyle for them, and all the fasters are ripped, and why isn't it working for me? Why am I so hungry? Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Those are just signs that it's not working for you, not that you need to push through. So the type of person that should fast, or that it's okay for them to fast, is typically going to be a man or a very fit metabolically woman. So if, like, men sometimes tend to have bigger appetites, so for them maybe it's easier to have these bigger meals at the end of the day, and they tend to eat a little more protein per serving or per meal than a woman would. So for a woman, like we talked about earlier in the week, it's harder to get in enough in those super small meals, in like 2 meals. You can't get in like 150 grams of protein, so you probably need to break it up anyways. That's one of the reasons why it's harder, because intermittent fasting automatically makes a lot of women undereat the essentials, the protein and things like that. People with big appetites can typically do well on intermittent fasting because they can intake that much. Or a person that they already kind of eat like that, like they're not big on breakfast, typically they can make it up during the rest of the day. So you may be able to do modified versions of it. But it's just very, very crucial to understand that those are the main things. Is your body healthy enough to do it? Is your metabolism ready for you to be able to do this? Are you going to be able to keep up the amount of protein that you need? Are you going to be able to eat the amount of calories that you need during your eating window? If you cannot do those things, or if you are already over dieted, if you're already at the lowest amount of calories that you should be at, you're already at like 1,200 calories, or you have a very long journey ahead of you, you probably shouldn't start. This is not going to be an optimal road for you. This is more of, I talk a lot about fat loss, like stubborn fat loss tactics and finish line tactics, or pulling your trump card, or having another trick up your sleeve. That is where this tends to come into play. And like I said, with the exception of like the person who maybe is already like that, they kind of eat like that naturally, they don't really have intense cravings, their metabolism's healthy and healed, they, maybe they eat right after, they have tons of energy during their workouts. If none of those things that we talked about are happening for you, then it's okay. I missed that question. If you can post that again, Chiquita, then I'll answer that. So for that type of person, you don't have like any kind of disordered eating thoughts, you're not binging or anything like that, it's not making you more hungry, you're not losing energy, you're like powering through your workouts, then go for it. But if at any time any of those things starts happening, then you need to take a step back and think about what you're doing, or at least modify it and see if that changes it. See if, okay, if I eat before my workout, do I have more energy? If so, then like I said, you can either change it up and say, okay, well, I'll only fast on days that I don't work out or something like that. But don't do it on the days that you're working out if it's causing you to not have energy. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. Like I said, I know that was a lot to digest, but I've been asked so many times that I had to go ahead and do a scope about it. Even though I'm exercising, I feel tired. Is that normal? You feel tired during the exercise or after the exercise? You should feel rejuvenated after you exercise. If you are completely tired after, then maybe your workouts are too long. Maybe you're not eating enough yet, or maybe you're not fueling properly for your workout. So those are signs that something's wrong. You shouldn't feel like less energy. I mean, you should feel like, like, oh man, I kicked my butt sometimes, but you shouldn't necessarily feel like fatigued. It should make you more tired. So like that's an example. I always tell people when they ask like what's better, like should I do HIIT or should I do regular cardio or whatever. And even though in the fitness industry we love HIIT, it's important to know that if you do a 15-minute HIIT and it causes you to sit for 3 more hours of your day, then it didn't really outdo what 30-minute bout of cardio would have done. So when you're exercising, sometimes you feel like you're about to pass out. Now, do you have adrenal fatigue or hypothyroid issues? Because that's kind of what I was talking about. Like if your heart rate recovery isn't coming down, like your body needs to be trained to come down from intense exercise. Like if your heart rate is staying up here, then that's when you start to feel that dizzy, nauseated, hypo, yes, the other, I don't know. So are you doing, you're lifting? I think the last you talked, you said you were like lifting and walking. If you're doing those, then obviously walking, I would hope, isn't making you dizzy. If you are getting dizzy during your lifting, then maybe your rest periods need to be a little bit longer. You're doing Zumba. Okay, so that could be the problem. It's only during Zumba because it may be too long. You should feel energized after that. If you are doing it and you're like about to pass out, then you probably need to either make sure you ate enough beforehand because maybe the class is too long. I know sometimes Zumba classes, like, what are they, like 60 minutes? Like that's a lot of dancing. I mean, it's fun, but if you're not eating enough, then when my heart is 129 and up. Right, so does your heart rate come down during rest, or are there any rest periods where your heart rate can come down? Because it seems like if your heart rate is just up nonstop, then you need to take a break from doing Zumba, or you need to be willing to leave a little bit earlier in the class, like, go in and get in 15 minutes or so and leave. But if you're feeling dizzy, then that's a sign that right now that might be overtaxing your body. You need to be healing right now. And if you're doing a metabolism reset, which you are, then you should probably not be doing much cardio anyways. We don't recommend a ton of cardio during your metabolism reset, and that's why, because it disrupts the healing process. So it's not that you can't ever do cardio again. It's just that doing a lot of cardio when you're trying to heal your metabolism, it kind of skews, like it confuses your body about what you're trying to do. So during your reset, I would recommend just lifting and doing things like walking or restorative type yoga, Pilates, something like that, because you want things that are going to help your body learn how to relax, help your body learn how to come down. That's the reason why you can still lift, because there's rest periods in between. But by lifting, that's what I'm talking about, is the kind that has rest periods, not lifting like body pump or something that's like keeping your heart rate up constantly. So lifting, you would need to have like rest periods enough for your heart rate to come down before you spike it again. The same way like how HIIT would be. You would want those periods. That's the reason why HIIT can help, is because it trains your body to, when it jumps, to come back down. But if it's not coming back down, then there's a problem. So again, it's not that you can't ever do it again. Zumba's fun. Obviously, if you're doing it, you like it, but you do want to make sure that you're doing slightly less or none during your reset, because it's going to skew your numbers a bit. I don't recommend, the majority of our beginner audience, I do not recommend intermittent fasting for. If it's someone that's healthy and hasn't done a ton of dieting, they're probably not paying attention to a lot of the things that I'm saying. So that's why I have to give this information towards that community, because the type of person that is looking for help after crashing their metabolism or yo-yo dieting for years and years and years is probably not the best candidate, especially if they are female, for intermittent fasting. That doesn't mean that they can't ever do it. It just means that they need to take the time to heal their body first before looking to those types of things. And they need to understand that if it's hurting them, be willing to stop regardless of the pictures, the hype, the magazines, the newspaper, you know, the CNN, whoever's talking about it. It doesn't matter. If it's not working for you, then it's just not working for you. And you need to take care of you, and you need to do what it takes to heal your own body. So I hope this helped everybody. And if you had no idea about any of the stuff that I was talking about, you can always go to em2wl.com/start. And that's where I will send you a free guide and video and everything to all this information so that you can find the style of eating that works best for you and for your life, and not just do something because of what somebody else said. So like I said, even this information, when I post it on the website, I will have links for you to go and do the research for yourself, because you need to go into it fully aware of what it's doing for you and or to you. Even if it seems like it's working, you need to be willing to stop if it's not. So I will give you information and some links for you to go and do that research yourself. If not, then you could just go Google it for yourself and find out. So thank you everybody for joining, and I hope that answered all the questions. I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully that answered the questions that I get a lot about it. Thank you guys.